psychiatrist. And after that, she continued to do Master of Public Health from Yale University. She also holds a PhD in Public Health and Epidemiology from the University of California, Berkeley. And her research is focused on the exploration of distribution of childhood onset neuropsychiatric disorder and disruptive behavioral problems, including autism and bullying, and also on the understanding of the causes of this condition, including genetic and environmental risk factor, as well as their interaction. Today, Dr. Kim will share with us her experience in this workshop. So she told me that she's going to cut short the topics and the presentation, and she will spend more time in the Q&A session. So the title of the workshop is Best Practice in Public Health for Autism Spectrum Disorder. Without further delay, I present you Dr. Kim.
Okay, it's a little too high. Hello, good afternoon. This is after lunch, so you might be a little bit sleepy, could be, but I will try to make it a little more interactive. And this is, first of all, a workshop, and I think by now you are very tired of listening to people talking to you in one way. So what I would like to do is, first of all, everybody move up. Would you please? Because there are a lot of empty seats, and if we can kind of a little more cozy together, then we can talk a little better. So let's sit together tight. The people next to you are gonna bite you, so why don't you together? And what I will do is I will try to make my talk as short as possible, and then you will have lots of questions. It seems like you have lots of questions, and there is never enough time for you guys to ask questions and get the answers or have some discussion, not only getting answers from me, but from other people too. So I will give you some of my experience, like a framework that we can talk about, and then let's discuss about all the questions you have in your mind, and then go from there. So what I would like to do today is the public health intervention that we have done through our research effort and what we have learned with you. So, and this is not a completed process. We are still learning and work in process, and it's our public health intervention strategies in a complete revision, like every time it's revised, every moment, with the feedback that we're getting, the evaluation that we are having, the things that we're learning. So it's a constant in motion and learning process, and that's what I want to hear, what I want to share with you. So the first thing is that we have to figure out in the process that we need to know what do we want to do, right? First, what do we do? And then, what are the challenges that we are going to foresee? And then, how do we prepare for those problems? And then, we're going to face a lot of questions that we did not foresee, and how we're going to prepare for, or how we're going to solve those problems. Right? Those are the all ongoing processes. The first thing that I would like to mention is that the public health intervention, from the outset, that we have to think about two things. The first is how we're going to form our team together. And there are three components that I would like to emphasize that's very important to incorporate in your team, public health intervention team. First is science. When you think about science, people think, oh, it has nothing to do with the public health. You know, the science is, you know, people who have these degrees in their lab and looking at the microscope or looking at the, you know, whole heavy data set, and oh, you know, it's just nothing to do with us. But actually, that is not true, and the science is not that heavy stuff. Science is completely integrated with what we do every day with the public health intervention and everything we're doing. So, as I told you, we studied our public health intervention process with the research of the prevalence study in Korea, and that's how we studied all. And just think about it. When you plan for something, you have to know, for example, you're going to help the people with autism and their families. The first thing you need to know is how many people we're dealing with. And that's the prevalence study. And we're just giving a very fancy name that this is a prevalence study, but it's actually the first step to prepare for your, whatever your project is going to be. So you need to know how many people you're going to deal with. And then you can think about how many people you're going to hire, how much money do you need, and all sorts of things. And without knowing how big a problem or how big a people you're dealing with, you cannot plan for anything. So the prevalence estimation is the first step. And then when you do something, like let's say that you're going to go out to the school to figure out how many kids I'm going to reach out, and we're going to do the survey, and also you're going to do the contacting people and bring them into the treatment and all sorts of things, then you need to figure out if actually your procedure is working or not. So for example, you decided that you're going to locate children that you want to reach through the school system. And you went to the school, and then the teachers do not want to cooperate with you. That even if that you have the best system, you're not going to get any results from the school system. So when you go out and do the real work, and then you need to figure out why the people do not want to cooperate with you, which I will share with you, that we had a disastrous experience at school, at the first school. And then we learned from it, and we changed the whole process. But that's all the evaluation process. We give a fancy name, science, but that's the whole process of doing it. You just don't want to do it blindsided. You want to evaluate the whole process, if it works or not. And then let's say you were able to get the response from the teachers, and then you send out the survey to the parents, and you ended up having like 20% of the response. And that's a serious problem. And you need to figure out why you are having 20% of response, and then how to improve the response rate, which we also did. It was not 20%, but it was like 60%, 65% we wanted to bump up. So in doing so, you first need to compute how much of the percentage of the parents responded to your survey. To do so, you need to know how many children are there in the classroom, so you need to have the whole population number, and then you need to get the response, and then go through all the response, the survey, and see if it's usable or not, and then count the surveys that's going to be useful, and then compute the response rate and see if there is any differences between schools and the classes. You have to analyze those things to understand what's going on, right? And that's you're evaluating your effectiveness of your public health intervention. And then when you learn from those processes, you need to revise those interventions. As I told you, it's a constant work in progress, and the feedback needs to be fed into the protocols that you have. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it. You have all the information, but you don't do anything about it with the information, then there's no point of doing it. And then the last thing that you want to do is you publish what you learned in your process and disseminate the scientific findings. This is what I'm doing, that what I learned from our Korean prevalence study, I published it in a journal, and then we disseminate those information through the media, through the meetings, through the talk. So it's not just something that I learned and sitting on my seat, but also I'm sharing those information with you. So the people who are going to do the similar things aren't going to start from the scratch, but they learn from my own experience and do a better job. And that's the whole point of doing this publication and dissemination. Yes, we get the glory of getting one more CV line, having one more publication, but that's actually not the whole point of doing the publication. Publication is sending out what we learned to the public and share with our colleagues and make things better and more effective as a next step. And then the public health intervention needs a really good effort in the advocacy and outreach. As the name says, public health intervention, we're dealing with the whole community. So we need to work on the process of getting a good public relationship. And to do so, we have to use all the public media. You can use the newspaper media, TV, but also internet is a very good medium that you can use to spread out about your public health intervention effort, what you're doing. And also public lecture is a very good medium that you go out to the community, give a talk to the parents and the teachers or other stakeholders to talk about what you're doing, public awareness about the autism spectrum disorder, and how you can use the identification systems or treatment, and so forth and so on. And also you seek for the public partnership. You can build a new partnership, but also you can use existing partnership that I will talk about a little bit. And also you want to have a good relationship with the policymakers, because they can give you the means and the resources. Like right now we have a full support from the prime ministers and the First Lady, and this is an amazing opportunity for the Malaysian autism community. So this, you already starting out from really good, amazing with the support. So this public policy making process is already in a very good first step. And then you really need to have the people who are actually delivering these services, who are doing the evaluations and the interventions. And these people need to be equipped with the most state-of-the-art interventions and evaluations. And again, with these evaluators, clinicians, or the interventionists need to be constantly updated with constant education, going to the conference like this or going to the continuous medication continuous education processes. So we have to be updated constantly. As I told you, that doing the public health intervention, one of the key things that we need to remember is to making a good and long-lasting community partnership. And in our study, that we made a community partnership, Board of Education, using Community Mental Health Center, and then we had a family self-help group, and the leader of the family self-help group was really helpful for us to move on. And then we also utilized local and central government. And then we also used mass media, major newspaper articles, TV, internet, parents' organization. And also we had some material support as much as we can get from any public foundation, religious community leaders, and local central government philanthropic grants. You grab everything you can do. So now I'm going to show you the examples, specific examples that actually we used. Well, when you do the public health intervention, you have a lot of people working together. So the communication is really important. And you can do phone calls and emails. That's all good. But if you also making a website that everybody can get all connected to have the agenda put up, and what's the next process, and what we learned, and what's the feedback, and also that this type of process you can share with the difficulties or what you learned from your own experience with your coworkers. So one of the things we did at the first set is we set internet cafe for our workers, because they are all over the place, spread out, and they cannot be at the same place at the same time very often. So this facilitated communication very much, in addition to the frequent phone calls and frequent emails. And then, as soon as our survey was funded by Autism Spectrum, Autism Speaks, and then we know that we are going to start out the study pretty soon, that we use newspaper articles to spread out our research agenda and what it is about, and also raise a public awareness about the autism. So this is Jungang Daily newspaper. That's one of the major 3 newspaper articles that we published in the summer of 2005, that who are the research team and where the research fund came from, and what we know about Korean children with autism, which was virtually none at that time. And this newspaper article actually resulted in the positive responses from the colleagues and the families of the children with autism spectrum disorder. And actually we got some attention from the Ministry of the Department of Health and Welfare that actually there are some movement to learn about autism spectrum disorder, and then they began to pay a little bit of attention on ASD. And this is another newspaper article by Jungang Daily. It was a really good article that at the time, the newspaper article was talking about school bullying, and in Korean community, bullying was a big issue. So instead of going just with the autism spectrum disorder, we connected that with the bullying issues. So people pay more attention. Oh, autism is somebody else's problem. It has nothing to do with my children. But when it hits with the word of school bullying, then people begin to pay attention. And then we in the newspaper addressed that actually the unidentified autism could be a reason for your child being bullied and victimized at the school. And this was also this at the on the right side of the corner, there is a ASSQ screener written in Korean, so Korean parents can see actually if my child is fitting one of these problems. So it also created some interest in the parents. And this is an article about the etiology of autism, and the picture is Eric von Bohn. And he became an instant, very famous celebrate in Korea with this paper, this newspaper article. And he was talking about the brain as a culpable for autism. It's not the parents who are responsible for autism. So in this way, we are spreading words about the autism spectrum disorder. That was the first time that has been ever used ASD in Korea through this newspaper article. And also I talked about the focus group meetings yesterday as an example of the meetings with stakeholders. So we met with the parents and we met with the teachers and addressed all of their concerns and addressed their issues and what they wish for, and also their advice how to go around with this. So now we had to tackle with the school system. It was not an easy task. So that from our very struggling experience with the school system, we learned 6 things. The first, we need to identify any pre-existing relationship with the school system that will function as an entry point to build our partnership with the school system and community. Just go to the school system and say, oh, this is what I want to do, without previous kind of trusting experience or relationship is a very tough thing, because school has suffered in the past a lot, that a lot of researchers came in and did something and just walk away with their data, and they didn't care about what the schools had to suffer with those processes, and they did not even share what they learned with the schools. And just they have been having this experience of being exploited by the system a lot. So it was not an easy thing or easy decision for the schools to accept any additional research protocols like this. So you need to have somebody who has already, if you have anybody who already has an existing experience or relationship with the school system, that's a really good one to start out and begin to talk about your project and what good it can do for your schools and your children. And then second is we need to approach from top, like including principals and directors, but also at the bottom, including teachers and staff simultaneously. If the principals say to the teachers, you need to do that, they will do it, but the fidelity is going to be a huge problem. They will just do it in an administrative fashion because it's another workload that they have to deal with. But when they figure out that actually it's helping their children and it's helping their work to teach their children, then their attitude changes. So they have to understand, and actually your protocol needs to address all of those issues. So it gotta go from both, from top and from bottom up. And if the government official is saying to the school that, oh, this is something that you need to do, then they will do it because it's an order. However, again, if they don't have a good understanding that it's going to help them and their children, they're not going to do with the due diligence and the whole data and the information you're going to get from them isn't going to be very helpful. And also, I told you that learn from the mistakes. Mistakes is not a disaster. Actually, that's a very good chance to learn and revise your protocol in a better way. And then I told you about constant talking with the system to learn about their concerns and to address, preferably proactively than reactively. And also be creative and flexible. Any obstacles and unexpected situation, it's going to happen a lot. Once you feel like you have the best plan in your hand, but if you go to the field, you will face so many unexpected obstacles and the challenges that you never ever imagined, in addition to the challenges that you imagined. So you need to be very creative, and then just assume that that's what's going to happen. Don't let it beat you up. And be persistent and patient. Don't take no as an answer. You just have to keep coming back. And all these things you need to do over and over again, and especially with the continuous changes of the leadership in the school system and the government. But you who have the real interest in the children with autism and their families are the real force and going to be there all the time. So you need to be doing this over and over again with the changing leaderships and the revolving problems. So among these that for the time's sake, that I just want to say, one of the disastrous experience we had that turned around and made actually our process better. This Joy Place is a family advocate group, actually self-help group. And the parents are the ones who have quite severe ASD with intellectual disabilities. But these parents have been very, very kind of pioneering. And their kids are now at the age of young adult. And in Korea, unfortunately, there are not much support for these young adults with autism. And these parents are kind of managing their own, buying some properties, and building their own community to support and maintain, sustain their life there, and help their children with autism being in a community together and live harmoniously. Okay, one of the things that happened is originally our protocol is to go around and ask the teachers to nominate the people, their class children in their class who are likely to have autism spectrum disorder. And it sounded pretty swift, and it's very effective, and going to all the parents with the 50,000 children sounded like really a lot of work. So, and also in the previous studies that turned out to be really good screening processes. So we decided to do it. And we went to the first, and it sounded like every teachers and schools were okay with the principal. When we talked with the principals was fine, vice principals were fine, and the leader of school union were fine. So we were all fine. And we went to first school and gave a whole talk about autism spectrum disorder. And then when it's time to give out the ASSQ, the screener, to ask them to name the kids in their class who are likely to have ASD, and to check it and then give us contact information. And then there was a riot. the teachers were saying there's no way for them to do it because then there will be a huge problem between the teachers and the parents. And the parents are going to be mad at them because they think their kids are singled out and blamed for something else. And they are not going to do any of this. So, and also after this, they got so mad at us, they spread all the bad words to the other schools, and so the other schools don't want to participate in. And it was a disaster. So we were in tears, and we called all the research members, and then began to talk about it. What went wrong was that actually we did not know how serious it would be sharing the information between parents and the teachers. And then the burden of identifying children on the teachers was the burden that teachers could not bear. And also that we cannot get information about the children unless teachers agree to provide them. And there was no way for us to contact the children and their families because all the informations are in the teachers and the school system. So after we talked about it, we decided to change it to both parent and the teacher survey. And we promised to the teachers that we're gonna include only the children who are screen positive or parents consented. And the status of the teachers' screening are not going to be shared by the parents unless teachers are comfortable enough to share it with them. And so it was a really rapid turnaround. But in the long run, it turned out to be a really good move because then not only it was a better way to build a relationship with the parents and the teachers, but also it turned out that the parent screening questionnaire provided completely different information from the teacher's screening questionnaire. So you ended up having better screening method. So again, learning from the mistake was a really good, good lesson from the first step. So I'm going to stop here because I already spent 30 minutes. And I will ask you guys, do you want me to go more about what we have done, or you would like to ask questions, more specific questions about what you're doing and what you're concerned about? Go on? Okay, so that I will go on a little more, 10 minutes or, but if you want to stop it and ask more questions, just let me know, okay? Because workshop is supposed to be more interactive. Okay. So, let's see. Then I will go. Okay. So, we met with the first thing we did is we met with the section chief of the Department of Elementary School at the Board of Education. One of our team had a very ongoing relationship with this person for a while for his other project. And then we talked about our project, and he agreed to introduce us to the the director of the Board of Education. So we met with the Board of Education, and who was very supportive of our project. And then, as I told you, we met with the president of the Joy Place, a self-help family organization of the children with ASD. So there is Gyeongjin School, which is in the study area. It's a school for the children with autism. It's a very wonderful school, and the parents organized this place right near the school. So the kids after the school can come to this place, learn about some vocational skills, and also parents can spend time together and discuss about their plans for the future. Because these kids are growing up and there's no supporting system in the society embedded for these children. And they have been very successful. And also they now have this Joy concert once a year. Inviting some famous entertainers and try to also raise the public awareness about autism, and also raise funding for their children. So this is an example of already established resource in the community, and then you make a connection with them. And then we had a meeting with the Board of Education, and then we had a very question that one of the questions that they had for us is, so what, after you count the numbers of children with ASD, what are you going to do for us? And this might be a little bit challenging, but also this is a very good question to be asked, because that means that this group of people are really interested in the welfare of the children. So they want to make sure that you're just not going to come and get your data and run away. You're going to give us and the children with something that we can get benefit. And they are advocating for their own children. And actually, this effort and this their request about this, what are you going to do after you identify the children with autism, for us ended as a wonderful project called Goyang City Project, which in partner with the Board of the Education, we proposed that every first grader who is entering to the elementary school system will be screened for any mental health problems, not only autism, but also anything like emotional, behavioral problems. And then when they are screened positive and needed more in-depth assessment and the treatment, then we're going to provide the treatment utilizing community mental health services or child psychiatrists or clinics or whatever resources available. And that's funded by the city. And unless, if the Board of Education did not push us to answer this question, what are you going to do for us? In addition to provide the number of children or the people who are having ASD, what are you going to do? And with that question, the team, research team and Board of Education gathered together how we can address these very important questions and came up with a very creative ideas that we're going to go to the City Hall and ask money. And actually they did provide not a lot of money, but $200,000 per year to support this, effort. And actually it became a benchmark for the whole Gyeonggi province, which is one of the largest 8 provinces in Korea, to launch some school mental health project. That project is only focused on the ADHD, but nevertheless, they had benchmarked our project and did the almost same thing, screened for the children with ADHD, and although their interventions and the assessment was a little bit less organized like us, but because it's a much larger scale, but it was the first initiative in Korea for the children's mental health for the early identification and treatment. So again, you can see your research effort combined with public health intervention can result in a larger project and larger public health interventions. And then, as I told you, that I met with the chapter of the director of Teachers Union. I mean, it was really important because Teachers Union in Korea was very strong. And if they oppose any of the things that we're doing, that there is no way for us to go on. So it was really important to get endorsement from this group. And then again, I told you that you have to have a lot of meetings after meetings and meetings, that you meet with the principals to talk about the research or the project and what they are concerned about, what they want us to do more. And we did this with the vice principals too and the health educating teachers too. And then finally, we were able to schedule the first visit to the school. And then that disaster happened, and I told you how we managed it. And this is the school visit that I showed you yesterday. And then the next year, that was the one section of the school district, and the next year when we were doing the second wave of screening, we incorporate all the things, all the mistakes we learned from the previous year in the screening and the assessment processes. So now, when we meet with the principals, we made handouts because the principals were saying that, you know, I heard something, but I don't remember what I need to tell my teachers. So we made a very simple handout, one-page handouts. And then the schools, they wanted to have some specific instructions to give out to schools. So we also spelled out what they need to do, which is a very simple thing. When we send the survey to the teachers, the only thing they need to do is to send it to the parents, and when they did the survey, that retrieve them and put them and just send them with a FedEx or something like that to the research team. Other than that, they don't have to do anything. And then we also meet with the research teachers, and we again concretely explained about the processes, and again specific instructions. Number one, you need to do this. Number two, you need to do this. It's very specific details. And then we revised the school education and teacher screening tool. So during the presentation, we asked them to fill out the screening. Okay. We are almost running out of the school, the time, and I think I need to stop pretty soon. So, do we have time for the?
Yeah, I think we have time.
Okay. So, well, the rest of it, if you guys are interested in learning about it, that I will talk to you in person, but I think we might need to have some time for the question and answers.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, and for sharing your experiences and a bird's eye view on how a public health approach can help the children with ASD. I think we can allow one question, I suppose. Yeah. Yes, we have one lady over there.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Fatima. To doctor, I would like to ask you, are there any special foods to pay attention for this type of children? Special foods, especially the parents must pay attention at home. For example, foods rich in vitamins, omega-3, fish oil, and then foods less in sugar and processed foods. Another problem is we know that we are what we eat. These foods being absorbed in the bloodstream, and then it influences the character of the children. Thank you.
Can you, okay, yeah. You know, one of the problem that we have with children with ASD is they have very limited food repertoire. They don't want to eat a lot of things. They sometimes eat the same thing over and over and over again. So the nutritional problem becomes a serious problem for the children with ASD. And on top of that, I think restricting sugar or gluten or you know, all sorts of food might become a very serious problem. If the kid really has allergy to gluten or sugar or some other things, that needs to be identified with the specialist. So if you feel like your child becomes more problematic with certain food, then you want to consult a nutritionist and the allergist or pediatricians to figure out if this food is really a problem for this child, like every other child. So the children with ASD is not that different from typically developing children in terms of the reaction to the food. And so, for example, sugar, we believe that when kids eat a lot of sugar, they become more hyperactive and more rambunctious. But actually, there is no scientific reports that support that notion. It's just our kind of feeling. Yeah, yes, perception. Likewise, there's no reason to believe that children with ASD have a different reaction to sugars or gluten or omega-3 or anything. The omega-3 fish oils and things like that, there is some research going on if that might be helpful for the children with autism, but I think it's dubious. It's not really showing any evidence that they are helping the children with autism. But again, having a balanced nutrition for the children with autism is really important, because these children sometimes have a very, very picky eating pattern. And that also creates constipations and all sorts of the health problems. So I will recommend that, although I agree we are what we eat, the children with autism in the same manner with the children who are typically developing when we are dealing with food.
Yes, we have one more question. I think that would be the last question, yeah?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Ranil from the Philippines. Yeah. Do you have any experience of mainstreaming the issue of autism in the mainstream public health agenda? And if you have, can you share it to the group on how you mainstream autism issue in the public health agenda in your country?
In my country, because I have two countries, so in Korea, it's not really well established in terms of mainstreaming or not as a law or as by the clinicians. It just happened that these people with autism, the children with autism, high functioning, are in regular education, not knowing that they have ASD. But what it worked for them is Korean school system is highly structured and it's very predictable. And there's not much like cooperative learning or free time. It's all class from class, with a very short recess. And then the learning is very much rote learning, memorization. And then after that, You come home and you go to extracurricular activity, which is also very structured. So for the high-functioning children with autism, it worked in the regular education because of the way it was built in Korean educational system. These children with autism spectrum disorder functions best in a very structured setting. They cannot deal with unforeseen changes, transitions very well. They do much better in a very tailored, structured, and when they know what happens next, then they can deal with it. But when something happens unexpectedly, then that becomes a huge challenge to them. So they have a mainstream benefits, but they do not have a lot of experience chances to interact with their own peers because of the way it was structured. For the US, it depends on the function and what we want to do for the children with autism. We have one really good experience in Chicago School District, that there was one specific school set up for this integration education. So 70% of the students were typically developing children, and 30% of kids were kids with autism, from very severely impaired to high-functioning children. And it turned out that actually these even severely impaired children had a great benefit from the kids, the interaction with the typically developing children. And not only that, typically developing children benefited from this integrative education because they learn about altruism, their self-esteem is boosted well, they know how to be a good citizen, and their school productivity got better, and at the end, all got benefited from this integrative education. The trick is the parents and the teachers who need to help them and guide them how to do it. It's completely in alliance with what Connie's talked about yesterday, the peer learning, but they can do best with the grown-ups guideline.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for a very interesting discussion, and thank you to the audience for asking questions. And I would like to ask everyone to show the appreciation to Dr. Kim in the usual way.
Assalamualaikum. Bagi gambaran ni hilang dengan pen hitam, pen marker hitam. Tu Raja Sri Rosmah dan tangan ni. Marker ke pen?
And then Andy. Yeah. So Connie, and then Andy, and then Yongshin, and then me.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome back to Hall Putra A. Again, we have another special session. This time is a session especially for parents who have children with autism. I'm sure you have a lot of burning questions to our invited experts, and therefore the time to ask those questions are now. To chair this session, please welcome Dr. Raj Karim, the President of the Malaysian AIDS Council.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all settled. Can everyone get their seats? We'll just give a minute for everyone to sit down. It's the last session, but I think it is a very interesting session. It will be interesting because this is where the heart of the whole seminar is. You know, we have heard, I'm just talking while people are sitting down, yeah? So over the last 2 years, we have heard from experts, from policymakers, from researchers, from scientists, from practitioners on the state of the art on ASD, on epidemiology, on global advocacy, on country initiatives, on the state of the art in identification, in diagnosis, in treatment, and support, yeah? But unless all this information gets to parents, to caregivers, to family, and to the community, we would not have finished our work today. So I'm very pleased to be able to welcome our panelists. You have seen them all over the last 2 days, maybe except for Dr. Hasna. Yeah, Hasna? So we have with us this afternoon 4 panelists, Dr. Andy Shi, Professor Dr. Yung Shin Kim, Professor Dr. Connie Kasarila, and Dr. Hasna Toran. Kasari. Yes, spelled wrongly. Kasari, sorry, it's a misprint here. Okay, can we settle down? Parents, please be ready with your questions. The way that we're going to do it is that the parents or caregivers, whoever would like to ask questions, please state your name, and if you can address any of the panelists to whom you like your question to be addressed, yeah? And you can get your answers. And I'm sure there will be other experts in this room as well who can also help support, especially those that come from local settings. You know, there might be some very specific situations in which they might want to ask questions. Yeah. Okay. Okay, can we begin? Anyone would like to start? Yes, please. Please introduce yourself, yeah? And where you come from.
Good afternoon to all the
Afternoon.
panel doctors in front. And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk now. This question is, this essay I've written, and the question is directed to Dr. Hasna. Okay, I heard from the keynote address from our the Honorable Her Excellency Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor that the new school she's building is only catering for the mild autistic children, 2 to 4 years old and 4 to 6 years old, and community awareness. So on behalf of a few parents, I've been asked to raise this information and at the same time to appeal to the panel or committee who's building this new school. Okay? So I will begin. I am Mrs. Susi Varaja, and it's very privileged today for me to have the opportunity to say a few words to Dr. Hasna. My son, he's here, come, you want to stand up? Yeah. My son is a very severely autistic young man. But he was severely autistic when he was age 4 years old. And the journey to reach the present time, the journey to reach the present time when he was diagnosed as autistic at age 4 was a very difficult journey for the family members. I need to spend 1 million ringgit to rehabilitate him. Okay? So, and I train him from severely autistic to moderate and mild sometimes. All autistic children, persons can be rehabilitated in their maximum capacity and to realize their potential to the fullest, giving the opportunity. So we as the community has a social responsibility to instill the qualities of independence, confidence, shared esteem and identity in them in order for them to function as normal people and to grow up to be responsible citizens. I'm very happy that Her Excellency Datin Sri Rosmah is building a special school. So I'm appealing to her and to all the community to make room and space for severely autistic small children, 2 to 4 years old and 4 to 6 years old for a start.
Okay.
I have not finished yet. I'm from Seramban, and at the moment I'm training 34 special children at a school called Pusat Jalan Horizon. 80% of them are autistic and 24 of them are severely autistic. Most of the severely autistic persons are referred to me from other PDKs in Seramban, Kajang and as far as Shah Alam. And I have the privilege of training an impressive number of them to be successfully honed and nurtured to be useful to themselves and society in general. So at the moment, we are expanding and we hope to share our what I call our technical knowledge transfer, funding and specialized services with Her Excellency Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor, so she will have space and room for the severely autistic. This question is actually brought about by few parents to know who has been telling me to do this today, so that they are going through very, very difficult journeys at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Salvaraja. Dr. Hasna?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Thank you to Mrs. Siva for the question statement. And I have to say that I totally agree with what she says. I totally agree with what she says. I believe that most of you here know me. I have a 19-year-old boy, young man, with severe autism too. And I do believe that we need to provide education for all. Having said that though, I beg all parents to bear with us and have a little patience, because this is a new venture, and my team and I, we are grappling with issues of getting a transdisciplinary team on board. We understand that in this team we need to have teachers, and we will have early young people with degrees in early childhood education, special education, and we are also hoping to recruit young people with degrees in occupational therapy and speech therapy. And my team, we are already thinking about how do you get people from various different backgrounds to view themselves as a team and work together, and not like, you know, we have different roles, and that's the thing that we need to struggle with right now. And therefore, we believe that we shouldn't be too ambitious, at least for the first few years. We need to make sure that we have the team trained up to scratch, and like they are able to deliver the kind of service that we have in mind, which is educational based, family centered, able to support family as well as those children. So again, you know, because I have a son with severe autism, and I've gone through the same path. I totally understand what is it that you want, and please, this is not in any way for me telling you not to bring this up again and again and again, because we need the voice of parents to tell the government, to tell the policy makers what we need. If you look at the history of special education in any part of the world, the main group that move things are parents. So not in any way do I want to stop you from voicing what you need. But as I said, please could you just give us time. This is a big first effort, and we have parents like Mrs. Siva asking for space for kids with severe autism. And I have friends who are advocates for kids with cerebral palsy, with Down syndrome, and they're saying that, Dr. Hasna, how come you only fight for kids with autism? How about our kids? And again, I have to say that this Permata Kurnia is the first ever fully funded by the government for kids with disabilities. And I've spoken to my team, and I say that we have to do a good job here, so that the government and the policymaker will say that, hey, that's not that difficult, setting up a center for kids with autism. Why don't we try it for cerebral palsy, dyslexia, Down syndrome, and all that? So I totally understand parents, and I hope that we will get there, but I need everybody's support. I need everybody's support and a little bit of your patience, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hasna. Do we have any other, anyone else would like to say? Sorry,
down here.
see. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I need to stand. Please, please carry on.
Okay, my name is Cheng Hui. I'm a parent. Mr. Siva, at least your son can sit quiet. My son can't. Okay? And then answering Dr. Toran, perhaps, I mean, not so much of patience and time. Perhaps like those parents who have actually brought up their kid can actually share with us, maybe in writing, in video shooting, how they actually overcome certain challenges of their son. And I would like to direct also to Professor Kasari. Maybe in your research and in your dealings with autistic kids back in the States, we are talking about severe, meaning like my son, he rocks, no? Sometimes he bites himself, that kind of severity. So now, perhaps you would like to share some of the outcomes that you've actually achieved in overcoming some of the peculiar behavior of autistic kids. That would be a better way than just say, wait, we gather resources, we gather the manpower and all that. But maybe share certain successes. That would be better for us, so that the other parents who have young kids would know how to overcome. Maybe like steaming, maybe like biting himself and all that. What measures do you do?
Yeah,
All right?
thank you.
So Dr. Toran, you can share with us how you bring up your son. Dr. Toran, 19
Yeah.
years old, you should have got experience also. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Connie, would it be okay if I, yeah, right. We started the autism, UKM Autism Lab in 2009. And when we first started it, we recruit mostly kids who have severe autism, because in our Special Education Regulation 1997, it says that only children who are educable will be accepted into government special ed programs. And now we have the Special Education Regulation 2013, which have eradicated the word uneducable, but pretty much the spirit of the regulation stays the same. So in 2009, we started our lab with 13 kids who have severe autism. And Alhamdulillah, I think we pretty much, we know how to teach kids with severe autism. We know functional behavior assessment, we know how to draw up behavior intervention plans, and we do have individual education plans in our program. And in order to help parents, we try to publish books, and those books are sold in our center booth. And we have been trying to collaborate with the special education unit, and we will continue trying to collaborate with the special education unit under the Ministry of Education. What we are hoping to do is not to totally ignore kids who have severe autism. We have Mode A, which is full-time intervention for kids 4 to 6. And then we have Mode B, which is something like toddler and parent program for 2 to 4. And with Mode C, we are hoping to provide support to teachers so that they could improve the way they teach kids with severe autism in schools. And for your information, for the past 9 years, we have been collaborating with Bhakti in training PDK teachers on how to do these things. So we have done our bit, but our lab is very small, and therefore with Permata Kurnia, we're hoping that we could operate on a bigger scale.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Connie Kasari will share some practical examples, if you can.
Sure. So I think one of the positive outcomes of new initiatives in the United States on research is that we are really focused on children who are minimally verbal or who have so-called severe autism. You know, children who are really impacted by their symptoms of autism. And so I think we're learning a lot more. So the exciting part is that we're learning new strategies, and we have new tools that can actually help children. One reason that children have severe behavior problems is because they need, perhaps they don't have enough access to communication. So we're finding many more tools to help them communicate. So iPads and therapies around iPad or speech-generating devices are really helping us. And other strategies. For example, some of our kids are just really bored, and so they act out. And so really understanding how much children understand, the fact that a lot of our children who are nonverbal or have severe autism actually have a lot of skills, can read, so they have, you know, some language system. So I think we're getting better at assessment, we're developing more tools, and so I think it's exciting now for even our older children who have severe autism.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Bismillah. I have, my sister have a child, 3 years and 2 months.
Your name and where you come from, madam?
Professor Ruqayya from Khartoum, from Sudan.
Thank you.
My sister have a child, 3 years and 2 months. He have hyperactivity and attention deficit. He all the time going around. We can't. Is this child have a hyperactivity disorder or autistic? We can't differentiate. How can we differentiate between autism and hyperactivity? How can we differentiate between them?
Thank you. Yeah.
First of all, you can have both. You can have ADHD and autism. Given that I don't know anything about the child, I cannot make any diagnosis right now, but severe ADHD kids could be seen like sometimes children with autism because they are so distractible, they cannot even make eye contact because they are so hyperactive and couldn't pay attention for a single thing. And because of the ADHD symptoms, their social relationship could be very disrupted. So to make a diagnosis, you need to go to an expert, and I guess in Sudan it would not be an easy thing to go to any expert. Let's see. But there are, I think, several child psychiatrists and also psychiatrists and psychologists, some, and pediatricians who have some ideas, can help you out. But it's not an easy thing to differentiate both two diagnoses, especially at early age, and when your child has a very, very severe ADHD. But again, you can have both.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yes.
Dr. Raj.
Yes.
Dr. Raj.
Yes.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Can
Yeah.
I? Thank you. Was that somebody? Just answer. Okay. Just ask your question. There was
Okay,
somebody there.
my name is Aziza. Just to inform all the parents present here that the objective of, the Permata Kunia Center is still at its early stage. We are still in the planning stage. We have not really concretized as to how it should be. But it is the wishes of the First Lady that being a pilot project, what we want to make sure that we do it well first. And then once it has been proven that the approach that we undertake is the right approach, and then only we hope to roll it out to other states. So we are still in the formulative stage. So it's not concretized yet. So to all parents, if you have any ideas on how you feel the center to be, now I would welcome all of you to send email to me or to Permata division in the Prime Minister's Department, and we'll look into all your suggestions. My email is sitiaziza@pmo.gov.my. So please send all your suggestions, recommendations, and we will look into it. We have a committee that will look into all this, the planning and concretizing what the center should do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aziza. I think that really clarifies the whole situation. It is a new project, a pilot project, but I think the most important aspect is that we have a platform. We have government's political will and government's intention to look into this as a very important public health problem and a social problem. So I think the first thing, the groundbreaking part has been done, and now the program needs to be developed slowly but surely. Okay, can we? Yes, please.
Assalamualaikum and
Waalaikumsalam.
good afternoon.
Yes.
Dato'.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
Wish-
please. Yes, carry on.
Hello.
I hear first and then there. Sorry, maybe I'm not looking properly. I'll look there after this. Okay.
Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much. Okay, I'm Sufaini Bidin from Kamara Early Intervention Center, and I also have autism children, 3 and 5 years old. I would like to have a request here, whereby currently maybe there is a doctor here, a psychiatrist, professional, okay, just not simply diagnose our children, make it generalized with mild autism. Because for us in the center, it's very hard, okay, to convince parents when the intervention given not give the good progress to their children. So I think the proper diagnosis in Malaysia must be yes, more specific in order for us to do our IEP. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. I get where you're coming from, but I think the experts here may have some comments on the difficulties in early diagnosis. Anyone would like to speak on that? You're making a comment? Okay. Okay. Hasna, you want to mention something?
Yeah, we noticed at our UKM Autism Lab that a number of parents who come will say that their child has mild autism. That's what the doctor tells them. And I think it's, I think the doctors, they're trying to break the news gently to the parents, and they think that saying that it's mild autism may sort of like not make things hard for them. But as Puan Sufaini said, when you say it's mild, then after a year you don't see much improvement, then parents move to another center thinking that the first center is not good enough. And we see this happening. And among the things that we need to do is to improve the medical fraternity professionals' skills in actually doing diagnosis.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hello. Good evening, Dr. Raj. It's a long time since I saw you. Rohani here, and Dr. Hasna Toran. And good evening. I come here to, actually I met Dr. Hasna Toran when my grandchild was 1.5 years. I brought to UKM. And now he is 6 years old. My daughter and I have done many things also, having a therapist in our house now, in my house, 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the after lunch, and until for 6 days a week. And I was really into it before with Dr. Hasna also for donation and everything. I bought books and I wanted to learn on autism, but I don't know, by the God, I was taken ill again recently. 19 years back, I had cancer, and recently I was diagnosed again. And well, I stopped for a while, and I hope my daughter can carry on. And Dr. Hasna, I would like to say thank you for all the help. The thing is, I wanted to tell you about Abdul Martin now. He progresses very well physically, but cognitively, he is still very low in the cognitive spectrum. So we have done many things. In fact, my daughter has brought all her therapies here, paid for her, but luckily that is again free and she'll be getting back the money. we don't know where to begin, because he's still non-verbal. He understands very little, and I really feel like sending him to Professor Connie to see him or to take him to her place. I think that's all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Puan Sri. We have so few brave people like you, and I think the family support is so, so very important. And thank you so much for being there for your grandchild. Dr. Connie, you want to comment?
Well, I would say, he's 6, and so that's still very young. There's still much to do, and still much progress that can be made. So that age between about 5 and, 5 and about 8 is a really nice window for developing communication. And again, I think it is about the kinds of therapies that you try, using some augmentative tools which, really do add a new dimension for the children. They're pretty interested, and I think you have lots of therapy services, so you need to push the therapist to find new methods and new ways of thinking about motivating the child. But you can always make progress, so I certainly would never give up.
Thank you. Do I see any parents? Yes, please.
Hello, Assalamualaikum and good evening. Okay, my name is Hidayati Basri. I have 4 sons and 2 of them are diagnosed as autism Asperger. So the 2 of them are under NASOM inclusion program, learning in a normal school, normal class with a NASOM teacher's aid. Okay, my first son, Hazim, has just finished his SPM. So now my major worries is for him to go to the next level, either Form 6 or university level. So to go to university level is a different environment. So my question is to Dr. Hasna, whether would there be programs, support program in universities to cater for this autistic child who can pursue to higher level institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hasna, preparation of a child for secondary, for higher institutions.
I hope that there are folks from the Ministry of Education here. We have issues from diagnoses all the way to preparing kids for adulthood. Just to share with you, in UKM, we have a young man who's now doing his first year in physics. And he's now being mentored by our lab. And we are learning a lot from him on how to support young adults who are furthering their studies in institutes of education. And when you look at support for young folks in universities, you have various degrees of services. For example, in the University Malaya, I find that they have a very good support service system there, but they are more familiar with students who are blind and students who have physical disabilities. So autism is something new, and autism is something that we have to figure out now. And one of the things that we need to do is to get the Ministry of Education to set up support centers for students in universities with disabilities. Because right now, over there, what they have is a welfare model where these students are given financial support to get them, for example, for those who are blind, software for them to be able to access the internet, so on and so forth. But what we want is not something episodic, but something more comprehensive and proactive for these students. And UKM, my university, we have over here Professor Madhya, Dr. Manisa. We are looking at those kind of services, but it's our early efforts, and I think this is a good venue for parents to say, to voice out what is it that you need, because it's a spectrum, and you have, kids with 2 all the way to, I don't know, 20, 30, 40. So I hope that folks at the Ministry of Education will start to take action on this. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name
Yes,
is
please.
Rohaya.
Yeah.
I am,
After this, yeah.
I am a parent. So since Dr. Hasna's lab has proven can give improvement to the ASD kids, so is there any plan to accelerate her experience to all PKI class in Malaysia? So at least those experiences can be shared quickly and accelerate to parents who sometimes we expect PKI can give some treatment to the kids, and some PKI has good and some is don't. So my proposal, if the Dr. Hasna's lab can be perforated to the schools while waiting Permata Kunia to be realized next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought that since we have like global leaders in autism, more questions. We have tried working with the, we have better experience with community-based rehabilitation center thanks to Bhakti. And for those of you who do not know what Bhakti is the organization of ministers and deputy ministers' wives. They have supported us financially, have supported our lab, financially, for 3 years in a row to go out there and train CBR teachers with the help of Professor Datuk Mizan. And we look forward to help teachers in school. And I think one of the things that we need to do is look at the bureaucracy and, providing training to teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Hi, I'm Muhammad Nadim Adam from Singapore. I'm a research and policy executive and a parent to an ASD child. I have 2 questions actually and 1 comment. My first question is with regards to the low resource or low income families. To what extent, based on our discussions for the past 2 days, would there be any concrete strategies on how do we actually reduce the cost of intervention amongst children with ASD, ADHD and so forth? Because as we've seen from one of the parents just now, she spent a total of 1 million ringgit to actually improve the condition of a child. And she's not the only one, I think, facing that situation, to the extent that the issue of autism has become some sort like an issue of those who are in the elite sphere. They could actually seek for specific interventions with increased efficacy. But what about those with the lower income group? Because as we understand, with regards to public intervention from public hospitals and public agencies, there's limited manpower, limited expertise, and long queues awaiting for intervention. That is one specific question. And the extension of this question is to Dr. Kansari. Based on your research and interaction with the Latino families in US, are there any best practices that you can share in this seminar where families of low income could be effectively assisted? Yeah. My second question is with regards to how do we actually provide assistance to siblings who are normal to respect their siblings who are diagnosed with ASD or hyperactivity. Because in my case, I'm a parent of 4 sons. Only one of my sons is diagnosed with ASD. My challenge is that how do I actually nurture my 3 other sons to actually respect and actually appreciate their elder brother who is faced with this challenge of ASD. Last but not least is my comment. It is where are we going post-seminar? After we leave this PICC by the end of today, what left or what remains? Because I was thinking possibly with regards to Permata Kurnia, we understand that it's physically not there yet. It's still at its planning stage. But could there be some initiative where we could set up a particular portal where partners in this particular international seminar could join in to share the best practices, the various relevant models that has been identified so far, so that parents and those who are interested in this particular area could actually easily assess the information, because there's so many information out there, but how do we actually sieve this information, and how do we actually document this information more systematically? I think that is the challenge. Lastly, with regards to policy level, I realize that be it in Malaysia, Singapore, throughout the region, or in fact globally, there is always this challenge of getting expertise in the relevant field of special needs. Perhaps we could consider the area of mid-career switch among professionals to get into this industry. And therefore, with regards to the state governance, there needs to be policies to provide carrots or perks for interested mid-career professionals to be interested enough, to be courageous enough to actually switch their career into the field of special needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you sound like a good candidate for heading up a parent organization. So I'm going to answer the Los Angeles, the low resource family, and then I'm going to give the microphone to Andy Shearer, who could talk about what Autism Speaks provides in terms of sibling group information and governance. So in terms of in Los Angeles, we have Hollywood, and we have a lot of diversity in our population. And one of the issues we have is that the individuals who can come to UCLA and pay for services are a different group of parents, and lots of international parents, by the way, than the families and the children, the vast majority, actually, who have autism in Los Angeles. The way to reach children the most effectively who come from low resources is through schools. Schools are where children spend time in the U.S. Now, I know that access to schooling has to be there first, so, a right to education. But all parents, no matter who they are, send their children to school. So we've worked very hard on delivering interventions, either by experts in schools or by training the workforce in schools, so teachers and aides and principals. They're our best bet for really changing the face of effective interventions for children with autism. On top of that, we of course do parent training, even when children are in school programs at any age, and then we provide in-home interventions in low-resourced homes in Los Angeles for children who are too young to go to school. So that's been our mission and our focus on the kinds of research that I do. But now I'm going to turn it over to Andy.
So for siblings, I think it is a very important issue. I think that, in talking to some of the siblings, you get kind of interesting feedback sometimes. some siblings are very engaged with the families, and they're some of the most compassionate individuals you will ever want to meet. And other times, there's resentment from the siblings because they feel that all the support and affection in the family has been channeled to the child with autism or the brother or sister with autism. So Autism Speaks have these toolkits that are freely available to the community. You can download them from our website. There's actually one that deals specifically with sibling issues. And it's stressed as much to the sibling as it is to the parents. And the idea is that the parents can work with this younger sibling or the older sibling and try to help him or her understand what is really going on, and that their role in the family is just as important and valued as the child who's affected by autism. I think at the end of the day, it's every family is a little different. So I think the principles, it can be gleaned from these toolkits, but of course you need to use your own judgment experience and try to adapt them so that you can really provide the best support for your other child. So the idea of also sharing information, this is something that comes up very regularly in a variety of settings, and there are different solutions to that. And I think you can think about it at a local level, maybe within, even within the neighborhood or within the community, within societies. Mechanisms such as peer group, peer support group, parent groups. That's usually a good way of learning about new information and new advances and sharing them with others. But there's also talks about, take Malaysia for instance. I think the issue is that there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes families and parents need some guidance in terms of what information might be most useful to them. And in those situations, it might be helpful for authority to actually act to provide that. There are talks about, for example, in some places where maybe there should be a central repository of information that's been vetted and that can address the needs of individuals, family living with autism throughout the lifespan. And certainly at WHO, there's been that discussion about whether or not maybe it should be a global resource for something like that in various languages that are available. But I think, Malaysia, there is a tremendous opportunity now with the First Lady's support that, maybe Pramada Kurnia could be the place where there's a central repository information that are targeted and customized to the Malaysian community that really address the most commonly asked questions throughout the lifespan for individuals and families with autism.
Thank you. Do I see anyone? Yes, please. I think that will be the last, yeah?
Good evening to the doctors and all present. My name is Madam Lim. I'm the headmistress of SK Sungai Buloh, a school with a PPKI program. And I would like to just give this information to Dr. Hasna. I was transferred to SK Sungai Buloh in 2012 with no prior training for PPKI. So this is the local scenario in Malaysia, where a headmistress who has no knowledge of anything about autism or any disabilities among students, and I've been placed there. So I felt very handicapped. So I think I can represent my other Guru Besar friends who are in the same position. So I hope someone here who has the authority to do something will please take some action that people like me will not be placed in a school like that. But I'm willing to learn, that's why I'm here today. And my teachers in school, have to teach students of all disabilities who are sent to us. So to those parents who are here, I salute you, because I have many parents in my school who are not able to attend, who do not have the financial capabilities, who are not willing to, not able to, not willing to, they are willing to, but they are not able. They do not have that financial resources to do intervention programs. So they are very much dependent on us. And we get a very small grant from the government, and it is very limited. And we are very tight in the way we can spend the money. And I know that we can use a lot of resources to help the students, but we can't afford. So I feel as if schools are just like babysitting the children. And I hope the Permata Kurnia, when you structure your whatever programs, please bring us in and hear us out. What implementers like us, what are the problems we face, and what can we contribute to Malaysia, to the country we loved. And I would say that a great percentage of our students are autistic. They are in the mainstream and they have not been diagnosed. So I think the percentage is higher than what is been surveyed, reported. Yeah? Because I also run the mainstream education in school, and I would say that maybe another 10% is still there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the reality on the ground, that we need to train everyone who comes